Welcome back. In the previous video, we have seen how Case Manager works. Now let us look at the Threat Investigator. CP4S is integrated with Watson. Watson is IBM's cognitive intelligence engine. When it comes to security, Watson helps in determining threat priorities. Watson does a deep dive to threat investigation and finds out the impact of the security incident. It can find out the IP addresses affected, file names, DNS details, and much more. For example, if there is a security incident where malware is proliferating across an organization's network, Watson is smart enough to indicate which servers have been affected. This immensely helps the SOC analyst to reduce their work of investigation from days to minutes. As per IBM's cybersecurity report of 2022, it takes more than a month's time to detect and contain a security breach. But for Watson, it takes minutes to investigate such a security incident. Watson is also smart enough to determine and map current threat to MITRE ATT&CK framework. Now, MITRE ATT&CK framework is like a two-dimensional matrix which has tactics and techniques used by adversaries. This framework helps security professionals to understand the security posture of their environment. Watson maps the threats of the tactics and techniques that were used by the threat actors. This helps the analyst understand the impact of security incident that took place. We talked about the automated investigation. Let us look at what we mean by that. All the artifacts, which are nothing but the proofs that we have for the security incidents, are automatically detected by Watson. And these artifacts are then attached to the case which is created for that particular security incident. Details like IP addresses, MAC address, file name, file paths, hash values, etc. all can be detected by Watson and attached to the case. This saves a lot of time and effort for the SOC analyst. So what we have learned so far is that when a security incident happens, CP4S has an application called Case Manager, which creates a case around that particular security incident. This playbook has integrated AI and is smart enough to understand the type of the attack and map the attack to the right entities. By the right entities, what I mean is the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Now let's see what it means when we say it is an automatic investigation. Let's take a real life example to understand it. Consider that there is a very rich lady whose name is Alice, and there is a theft that has happened at her residence. What will Alice do next? She will go to the police station and then report a case, and the police will write a FIR, which is First Information Report. Now the details in that FIR will depend on what Alice tells the police inspector. Next step ideally would be that the police inspector reaches Alice's residence and starts the investigation. The first thing they will note or try to understand is that how did the thief enter the residence? Was it a forced entry, or did the thief have already had some keys for that particular residence? In a very parallel situation in a cyber world, when a security incident happens, an alert is fired by, say, your SIEM, or the IPS or firewall sends that alert to SIEM, and then you get it in CP4S. Now this alert would be like Alice is reporting to the police that some issue has happened. At that time, CP4S will automatically collect information like the IP address and port number, the attack, from where the attack was initiated. This is like whether the thief entered from the front door, a rear door, or actually had broken a window. There are other artifacts too, like if any files or malware was planted in the system, which usually happens in case of, say, ransomware. Are any user accounts compromised, or is any email data that is published? We can relate this to the physical world where the thief has stolen some valuable paintings from, say, Alice's home and has now put it on sale in a black market. Similarly, a search can also be made on a dark web to know if a confidential information is leaked for that particular security incident. The point that I want to make is that in a real world scenario, all these things will need to be investigated by the police inspector and his team, and they need to be confirmed with a proof or evidence. This collection of data along with the proof and evidence may take weeks or months. But in a cyber world, when the incident happens, CP4S is used with the threat investigator. This data is collected in matter of minutes, and a strong case can be made against the offender. Now let us see what happens after registering a strong case. What we see here on the screen right now is a flow diagram which explains the exact steps taken in a CP4S. First, a search is made across all data sources to find more details. Once we get the information like say an IP address, a web URL, we need to enrich this data. For example, is this IP address from an already known bad actor? From which region has this IP originated? Right now, in this scenario, every organization is looking at if the IP belongs to rather say Russia or Ukraine. This is exactly what is called data enrichment, which is the second step. Let's take a parallel in the physical world. Say if the modus operandi of the theft that happens at Alice matches exactly that in the nearby society, then we look at that case in a very different perspective and we add more data to it. Once the data is enriched, the third step is to assign a risk score. We need to understand how severe the security incident is and how many people it will affect. Which assets will be destroyed? They may be destroyed fully or partially. Usually, a mathematical model is used to assign a risk score depending on the data received, the past history, and the future predictions. So if Alice is like a big shot foreign diplomat, the risk score associated with the theft that has happened at her residence is significantly higher than a theft that might happen at a common man's place. There could be state secrets which are at risk. In a cyber world scenario, hundreds and thousands of incidents keep happening every day. Analysts who are working in the SOC cannot just go ahead and look at each and every incident as it happens. What typically happens in a SOC in all the companies is that analysts choose to work on the security incidents with the highest risk score. So it is very imperative that whenever a security incident happens, it is assigned a risk score because the one with the highest risk score will be looked at first. So now we are done with the 3 steps, and the 4th step is to propagate the risk score, that is to predict how the risk score will change over a period of time. Usually the risk scores reduce over a period of time as the threat actors are neutralized. There are computational algorithms which are used for the same thing. Once the investigation completes, what will be the next step? The next step is to categorize the security incident. There needs to be a narrative or a report around what exactly happened, how it happened, what was affected, how the assets were protected, and finally, what could be done to avoid such incidents in future. And say, if we are able to accept the risk that such incidents will happen, then our plan should be what will be the corrective actions taken. This is what I talked about right now is nothing but a playbook. So the next time a theft happens at say Amber's place, who is say Alice's friend, instead of a police inspector investigating all the data points and collecting it for a month's time, a constable, someone who is much lower in rank, can be sent with a particular checklist to collect all the relevant data. And the same task should be completed in much lesser time with a much less skilled analyst or the inspector in this case.